This was a huge shift in my life, going from survival to what could thriving look like. Just a glimpse of it. To look out and see the sunset or see the sunrise as opposed to just seeing a picture of it. Like, how creative could I be? What would really bring me alive? Because the glory of God is a man fully alive. What brings me fully alive?
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in.
Yesterday, I was reflecting on an event that happened in my life 15 years ago that changed the direction of my family. And I'm sharing that with you this week, guys, because in life, we make decisions. And when we make decisions, they have consequences. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. And I knew at that point in my life, I was around 30 years old, that I could be doing better, but didn't know exactly how. I was running one business at that time. And things were stressful and tight. I had just got married, up two young kids at home. And it's like, holy moly, life was happening fast. And, when I first got married, you focus on you and the wife and all that good stuff. And next thing you know, only about a year and a half later, we had our first son. And all of a sudden, things started to change for us. And I can remember clearly once our second was born and they were both running around the house and all that, things started to change inside of me as a man. Things started to become more real. And what I mean by that is early in the career, it was more about how can I build this business and focus on that. And it took most of my bandwidth. And then getting married, it was a lot on my, focus on the marriage and the relationship and all that good stuff. And then kids came along and it changed everything. And here's the interesting part. It changed it in a way that I wasn't expecting. Now, imagine, a house, two kids running around in it. And at one moment, I'll never forget it, my oldest son, he comes over to me and he grabbed my leg and he looked up at me and he had this look in his eye, like I admire you, I look up to you. And there was something inside of me that shifted that day when he did that. When he looked up at me with this look that it's hard to describe, but you fathers out there, and even mothers, you may know what that looks like. And something shifted inside of me. I realized, holy moly, life isn't just about me anymore. This is about something so much bigger. And I knew in that moment in my heart that I was not the man that I was really proud of. I was doing a lot of work. I was spending all my time in my work bucket, if you will, and trying to forge some time for the relationship, and not spending as much time with my kids present as I could have. But I was so focused on not losing and sometimes winning, owning a business, that I dedicated my time to focusing on myself and my business. In that moment, when he looked up at me with this admiration, and I thought, man, if you knew the struggles that I'm going through right now, the vices that I'm stuck to, all the stuff that's going on in my life right now that you don't see, that you don't know, that I haven't shared with the world. If you knew all that stuff that was going on inside as a man, as a business owner, you wouldn't love me. There's no way you could possibly like me. And that look shifted something inside of me. And I said, you know what? I need to do something different. I want to become a man that he can be proud of. I want to become a man that leaves a legacy for my family, not just money. I want to become a man that when he looks in the mirror, he's like, you know what, God, you did a good job. That I really want to be able to see myself in the mirror and say, you know what, you really are here to serve. You really are here for a bigger mission and purpose. It's not just about money. You don't need those vices in your life anymore. And anyway, at that point, I reached a point where I had a friend of mine actually reach out to me. We were just talking. He talked about this book called E-Myth. And I'm not somebody who sat down and read a lot. I didn't really enjoy reading. I like the idea of getting the content. I just didn't like to read. As soon as I'd sit down and open a book, my brain would go in 40 directions. I saw words on a page. It was tough. It was a struggle for me to read, any books that were longer than, or whatever, any documents that were longer than a few pages. I just really had to concentrate. It was really tough. So I avoided it. And I would listen to back then books on tape and wherever I could to get information, but I would not sit down and read. And he said, look, get this book, read it. It'll change your life. And I was like, okay, I did it. And I was like, you know what? I was going to break it down in small chunks. And as I started getting into this book, I started to realize, holy moly, he's right. It talks so much about systems and the the ability we have as business owners to see our businesses differently, not as we're going to be the only ones as technicians constantly running the show forever, but how do we build a business that doesn't need us? How do we build systems that we can integrate into our business that will give us the freedom that we really signed up for when we started this whole thing called a business, right? We didn't sign up so we could work 60, 70, 80 hours a week and hope like heck we have money at the end of the week. We didn't sign up for that. We signed up for freedom. We signed up for being able to call the shots and create our own destiny. That's why we started business, right? Listeners, you feeling me? This is why we started this thing, but somewhere along the line, we get stuck in this idea that we just have to keep it going and we just got to hold on each day, hoping tomorrow, praying tomorrow is better. And I know for years I was in that realm, in that valley, if you will. And I read this book and it started to fire ideas in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, how could I systemize what I'm doing? Anyway, read the book, started to integrate some stuff. And at the end of the book, they offered the option to get a coach. And listeners, I was not somebody who was going to go out and get a coach. I thought that, I kept most of my business struggles and personal struggles inside. I didn't share them with anybody. So when I thought about a coach and I'm thinking like, man, I don't know exactly how to do this thing that they're talking about, shift this stuff and do something different in my business. I don't know how to do that. So what the heck? Let's try this. And I remember it was like $500 a month to have John Guancy was his name, was my first coach. And he came through the eMyth platform. And we talked 1 week, kind of got to know each other a little bit. I'll never forget, listeners, this is kind of the crux of my whole episode here. I never forget when he said to me, all right, Joshua, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to write your eulogy. And I said, write my what? He's like, yeah, your eulogy. And I said, well, okay, wait a minute. Isn't that something that people say when people die? Like the nice things that they did for them? I said, why would I be writing it now? I'm not dead. He's like, you write your eulogy now. And when you do, you'll have a target. If you want your wife, your children, your best friend, the loved ones in your life to stand in front of that church, stand in front of that funeral home and give a eulogy of your life, what do you want them to say? And I'm thinking like, I don't have any clue what they're going to say. I'm just going to do my best each and every day and hopefully that's enough. He says, but Joshua, you have the opportunity right now to create that for yourself. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want all this struggle and triumph and just being bloodied up in battle out there in business every day? What do you want this all to have meant? Really, deep down, what do you want this all to have meant? Man, he stunned me with this one. Like, I didn't know what to do. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, all right, sure, it's a little homework assignment. I'm just going to sit down at the table. I'm just going to scratch some stuff on paper. The next thing you know, he's going to be happy. We're going to move on to something else that wasn't quite as uncomfortable as this. Well, I sat down on a Saturday morning. I'll never forget. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and my coaching call was on Monday. I was waiting till the end because I really didn't really want to do this. And I sat down at the table and I started to write stuff out. And as I started, the pens hit the paper and I started writing things down. My two young boys are running around the house, squealing and lighting up the house like only two young kids can do. And I find myself getting deeper and deeper into writing this and realizing in flat out tears, sobbing as I'm writing this out, what I want my wife and my kids to say when I die. And I was just sobbing uncontrollably. I was like trying to control like, what's going on? I don't ever do this. Like, what's happening here? What was happening, listeners, is I realized that I was not the man that I was writing about. I was the man who worked as much as I possibly could to avoid hard conversations. I worked as many hours as I could to make it look like I was busy constantly. I worked any way I possibly could to look like I was providing, when deep down I was majoring in minor things and staying busy so that I looked like I was busy. And at the end of the day, I didn't have a whole lot of money in my bank account to show for it. And that was the realization that was coming out of me as I was writing this out, thinking, what do I want my wife and kids to have? How do I want my wife and kids to have known me over my life? And as I sat there sobbing and crying and just breaking down and my kids squealing and running around, not knowing what's going on, they were too young. I sat there realizing, man, there is gigantic chasm between where I am now and where I want to be in the future. And there's a huge realization hit me. I'm like, okay, Joshua, who has the power to change that? And I was like, me. I have the power to change it, but where do I start? How do I become that man that I'm writing about? Because I certainly wasn't that man. I knew all of my weaknesses. I knew all of that stuff. I knew Back then I knew exactly what was going on. I knew by the end of the day, after working all day or all week, I couldn't wait to have a couple of beers when I came home. That was my treat for the day, or a little bit of weed, or watch some porn, or whatever it might be, because that's my treat for the day. I did a great job. I'm out there wrestling the world and so strong, and that's my gift for the day. And I didn't realize that those vices were destroying me. They were absolutely destroying my life, and I did not know it. I thought they were kind of the gifts of the day, the participation prize, if you will, and that I earned them because I worked so darn hard outside. Man, was I wrong back then, but didn't know at that time, right? So I'm like, holy moly. I'm sobbing, realizing what I need to change in order to become this man, what I need to let go, and what do I need to embrace. And it was scary, really scary. So I went back to John after doing this and explained what happened. He's like, all right, now we can start working. Now we're finally getting real. Here's where you are, and here's where you want to go. And that bridge or that valley that you're going to go through, you're going to have to figure out how to get a plan. That's what the gap is, right? Get a plan. So we got to get a plan and start working on that. So as I started visualizing what a future could be for me, and it didn't include 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks anymore. It included a lot more time with my family, a lot more time traveling, a lot more time serving other people. It's more time with God, more time in my relationship with my wife. All of those things were higher priorities in my future goals than my current situation, which was all work. And deep down, my biggest fear back then was that if I didn't work that hard, that this whole thing called business, my whole identity of a business owner, disappeared, go up in smoke. If I disappeared and went on vacation for more than a few weeks, or if actually back then it'd be a week would be max, right? So anyway, I'm sitting there thinking like, holy moly, like how do I change this? So with the grace of God and Him in my life, I started to make some changes. I started to reprioritize. I started building systems around. I started hiring mentors. I mean, I had John there for more the life coaching side. I started to think, who else do I need in my life that can help me like this? Where else am I stuck? And over time, I started to find other mentors in my life, and they started to teach me things. And I find people that have already been down the road that I want to go down, and they fast track that. I can compress decades into days that way. And I started to find this, it was really, really fun to grow and to change. And I know most are scared of change because change could be uncertainty, and most want certainty as one of their highest human needs. And for me, uncertainty was scary, but was a lot less scary than feeling the regret of doing nothing. So I'm telling you this story, guys, because what I'd love is for each listener out there to start really thinking about what they want the end game to be. Because let's face it, if we start with the end in mind, right? What do we want all of this struggle and all of this, pain that we go through as business owners out there building outdoor living spaces and dealing with customers and banks and money and equipment and vendors and the weather and everything that we deal with, taxes, all of those things. What do we want it all to have meant at the end? If we're sitting on a rocking chair at 80 years old, looking back, what do we want to be? What kind of story do we want to tell? Do we want to tell a story of how we just got by? How we just had enough money in the bank? How my kids had to go without? And I'm working my tail off and my hands to the bone because I didn't have the proper skill set. I didn't have the proper mentor or coach in my life that could have fast tracked that so I could be sitting on the beach with my grandkids instead of watching them through a FaceTime video because I got to be on a job site because I got bills to pay and I didn't save money when I was younger. Do we want that to be our story, ladies and gentlemen? Or do we want it to be of triumph, of planning, of purposefulness, of facing those dark things now, the things that are holding you back, potentially vices that are holding you back? Potentially it's a mindset or a story you've been telling yourself deep down. What is it that's holding you back? How aware of you are you of the inner voice, the one that either encourages you to grow or holds you back so you never do? We call it a sage, which encourages you, or a saboteur, which holds you back and always wants you to be thinking you're not enough and you never will be, that you're broken, that you're unfixable, that all your problems are unsolvable. That's what the saboteur wants. The sage does not believe in that. The sage in you, that feeling you get when you crush a project and a client's so excited and you did a great job and you're like, man, I did a really good job. And that feeling you get, that's the sage. That's the one that constantly trying to empower you and have you grow. Which one are you listening to? Which one is feeding your life on a daily basis? So when you think about the end in mind, think about which way do you want to see it? Which way do you want to set it up? What do you want the finish line to look like for you? I know these are big, heavy questions for a podcast. It's on my heart today, guys. I'm in the process of writing my book, and this is part of that. This was a huge shift in my life, going from survival to what could thriving look like. Just a glimpse of it. To look out and see the sunset or see the sunrise as opposed to just seeing a picture of it. Like what could it be? How much can I dream it? How creative could I be? What would really bring me alive? Because the glory of God is a man fully alive. What brings me fully alive? And so once I started writing all that out, what that looked like, it gave me an idea, a destination, if you will, of where I want to go. And now it's a matter of just getting people in my life that can help me get there. Once you clear that up, and listeners, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be an exact address on an exact beach or mountainside somewhere with an exact this or an exact that. Just start dreaming. What I don't want any listener out there to ever feel the regret of is sitting back in their chair one day thinking, man, I wish I would have done that. Man, I wish I would have done that when I was young. I wish I would have taken that chance. I wish I would have made that move. I wish I would have done that stuff. The I wish I's, right? That's what I'm really hoping that listeners, you guys out there, start thinking like, wait a minute, maybe I don't need to live a life where I have to wish all the time. Maybe I can be purposeful and make it happen. Because you can. Because if this country boy from Pennsylvania can do it, so can you. I started out with no money. I started out with no big vision. I started out with all those things. And by the grace of God and lots of opportunities, I got to be able to serve and to grow. And now I get the opportunity to give back. My good buddy Ryan out there, I'm sure he's listening. He likes to tell me about something I told him about each one, teach one. Ryan, if you're listening, I'm thinking about you, bro. Each one, teach one. That is our mantra. And God gives us each and every day gifts. And it's our job not just to use them and put them away in some closet somewhere that no one can find them. It's when we're given a gift of an insight or an opportunity to grow that we share it with people, that we teach others about it. Because really deep down as humans, we learn more when we teach than when we use. Like when we use an idea, we learn more than when we teach it. So if you really want to master something, become a teacher in it. And then you will master it over time with lots of reps. So guys, I want to spin this all the way back around again and ask you, what kind of legacy do you want to leave in this world? Is it just the guy who worked or the girl who worked insane hours, all to build a business that had no value at the end? They couldn't sell it, and all it basically was they was their own boss their entire life. And at the end, you really have very little money to show for it and very little anything to show for it. Or do you want to live in a way, do you want to plan a future that excites you, that gets you up every morning, ripping the covers off? You can't get up early enough to start this day because you know that each day is one step closer to that vision, to the idea of this amazing legacy, this amazing future. And that can be different for every single one of you. No two have to be the same. What I want in my future and what you want, completely polar opposites, and still be awesome. So I encourage you listeners out there, because I know this really shifted my life when I did this. And I was in the process of writing my book, this passage, this chapter, and I was sitting in the exact same place that my kids were running around the kitchen, and I was at the kitchen table writing my eulogy. And 15 years later, I'm sitting at that same kitchen table, writing out this chapter in the book, telling the story of what happened over 15 years of setting that idea of what the future might look like and starting to head in that direction. And I will say, listeners, it changed. But what didn't change is the excitement about something that's coming, the hope, the faith knowing it's going to be there. Maybe not exactly the way that I pictured it, but I know there's something to get up each day with a purpose and a mission to move toward. So listeners, I challenge you, if you want to do that same thing and you want to sit down, think about where you are right now and where you would like to land this plane someday, start writing out what that future looks like. And when you write out that future, think about what your children or your loved ones or your spouse, what they're saying in front of that audience about you. And I'm not talking pride or ego here. I'm talking about what kind of man or woman were you? Did you show up and help people? Were you always there, constantly working hard, providing for your family, protecting your family, going on vacations with them, spending time being present? Is that the kind of man or woman you want to be? If it is, you need to make that happen. And today, it's the day you can start. Don't feel bad if you didn't do it yesterday. Don't let the saboteurs come up and try to kick you in the butt and say, oh, well, yeah, you're too late. You're too old. You can't do it now. That is BS. That's what saboteurs love to do. Your sage is saying, come with me. We can do this. We can do this together. So I challenge you guys, write your eulogy. Sit down one day Think about where you want to land this plane. Think about what you want all of this craziness that you're going through now, running your own business, what you want that to all have meant. What do you want to have to show for it at the end? Because at the end of the day, the last thing you want to die with is regret in your heart and wishing you had another shot to go out and try it one more time so you can hit a different destination, guys. You don't want to work your entire life climbing a ladder, climbing this ladder, thinking you're heading in the right direction without no real big picture in your mind. You just keep climbing, and you get to the top of this ladder and you're ready to retire and get out. And you know what? You look up, you look out, you realize you put your ladder against the wrong building. Imagine what that would feel like. Life just doesn't happen like this. You have to start becoming purposeful and figuring out what that looks like and start working. If that vision is dim, if you don't have a really clear idea, that's okay. Just put something out there. Talk to your spouse, talk to your kids. What does 15, 20 years look like from now? 15 years ago, I never would have imagined the life that I live right now. I mean, I had ideas of where I wanted to go. We're definitely heading in that direction. It's not exactly what I had planned, but I'll tell you one thing, it's 3 times, 4 times, 10 times better than I could have ever imagined. It's all because I took the initiative to start dreaming bigger and thinking beyond what I knew in that moment. And at the same time, hiring coaches to help me see what I couldn't see. Because as humans, we live inside the bottle, which means we see life from inside the bottle. We have a hard time reading the label. And when we spin it around, we have mentors and coaches in our life. They can see the bottle and they can help you with that. So you're not blindsided by things or completely missing certain parts of your life. So listeners, today, my biggest goal was to start thinking long-term. And the way you do that is by starting with the end in mind, planning it that way, and starting to write out your eulogy. And you guys, if you do write out your eulogy, just send me a quick Facebook Messenger post, said, brother, I did it. And it was whatever kind of experience you had. Because I know the ones out there that are listening that truly want change in your life, they know it's going to take work. They know they're going to have to go into those dark places. They know they're going to have to focus and face things that they don't want to face in order to grow. That's change. Only the most courageous will do it. And I know if you're listening to podcasts and you're constantly growing yourself or wanting to grow, that you have the spirit to do that. It's just a matter now of getting out there and putting the work in. So listeners, I love and appreciate each one of you. I shoot this podcast. I just want to share the things that God has poured into my heart. And hopefully it helps you each and every day. Hopefully these words land on your heart and hopefully it change some lives together. That's really what this is all about, guys. So once again, as always, I appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll talk next time.